Hello YouTubers, and today it's going to be a bit of a different video. It's going to be more of a story time type of video and that today. And basically I did a poll and people decided yes, they're wanting to hear this, so if this is boring and that, well, people ask for it. And you may have heard some of these stories before, because I've told them on live streams, but I'm just going to talk about how I watched Doctor Who growing up and the various ways I watched it. Because obviously, people, growing up watching it today, they can just watch basically all existing episodes on iPlayer and that to start off with, which, I think people who are, my age, in their mid-20s, I think we were like the last generation where, basically it wasn't all easily available to us, or at least not as it is now. It was technically, but for a price in some cases, which I'll get onto later. So, for starters, when watching Doctor Who and that on TV and that, generally, I would record them on VHS. But I will also make sure to record them in the lowest possible quality in SLP, which is super long play. For those who don't know, VHS, blank VHSs, in fact, I've got some to the side of me, which are a birthday present for my friend, but here's some blank VHS tapes here, which are 180-minute tapes. But that's like standard, quality. That's like basically best quality possible. However, if you wanted to get more, recording time out of your VHS, what you could do is set it to long play, or what I did is super long play, so it would mean that you could get, more recording time out of your VHS, which the way that would happen is basically it would run the tape slower, at a slower speed. And the problem with this was that it would reduce the quality. But not as much as you think. Not as much as you think. And the reason is because you got to remember, we were watching this on CRTs and that, and generally when I did record them and that, I was recording them on my TV in my bedroom at the time. And to put this into perspective, it was I think it was either 12 or possibly 14-inch CRT TV, which I've still got to this day. It had a built-in VCR and a built-in DVD player. That's another thing as well. Growing up, we didn't tend to call them VHSs. We called them videos. Yeah, we called them machines rather than VHS players or VHS machines. They were generally called either a video machine or a VCR, and that. It's kind of like how, today most people call records or LPs vinyl, or vinyl records, or vinyls, which I refuse to call them that. But that's, generally just changing terminology and that for the same thing, whereas people back in the day didn't actually call them that, they called them records and that. But yeah, so that was that. But that was how basically, I watched and catched up with Doctor Who, because there was no BBC iPlayer initially. I started, properly watching Doctor Who in 2005 with the revival, and that, like, most people my age probably did, because I would have been 6 years old when that started and that. And I do remember actually sitting down to watch that, because initially I wasn't interested. I didn't want to watch it. I know. But my parents wanted to watch it. They weren't Doctor Who fans at all, but, they had seen, bits and pieces of it, obviously growing up, because both of my parents, grew up, in the 70s, so, yeah. So, there was a bit of nostalgia factor there, so basically, everyone was, like, tuning in to watch it. So I watched it, and I was gripped on that from it. But I did not get my first Doctor Who DVD or like physical release of anything at all until a year or something later. Like I do remember. I don't know if it was my first or one of my first Doctor Who DVDs that I ever got. Was Series 1, Volume 2. And that was the Dalek. Basically, for Dalek. That was the reason I wanted it. Because I didn't have a recording of it anymore. And I wanted to re-watch it. Why did I not have a recording of it anymore? Well, the simple thing is that basically back then when I was 6, I didn't really have any of my own blank VHSs. What my parents and that used to do, and grandparents as well, and this is also the reason why, Sky Plus and other, digital recording is basically remain popular, is that basically my parents and that would only have a handful of blank VHSs that they would just record and reuse over and over again. Because, well, blank tapes, were expensive. Nowhere near as expensive as, they were in the late 70s and throughout the 1980s or 90s, but, they still weren't cheap. Like, that pack of 3 VHSs and that. You can see this is a more of end-of-line one, but you can see here, £3, buy one, get one free. That is when they were basically at the cheapest price and that. But normally a pack of VHS tapes like that normally would be about £5 and that, which, adds up very, very quickly. So they would just reuse the same tape. So my recordings of Doctor Who, yeah, they would get recorded over and that a lot. And I wanted to go back and rewatch that episode. So I can't remember if I got this DVD brand new or whether it was used, but I got it from That's Entertainment. Who remembers that, eh? That's Entertainment. And that was, I don't know if it was new or used, but it was on an offer, and I think it was like maybe a £5, like it was either £4 or £5, and that wasn't much money, which is why my dad, agreed to buy it for us. My God, I rewatched that DVD constantly. Now I don't remember the order in which I got all my Doctor Who, DVD and that releases and that. I can't remember the order of all of them and that. So bear in mind when I do tell these stories, unless I specify otherwise, I cannot remember what order they were in and that. But I do remember not too long after that, I think I also got Volume 4. And later on, I did get Volume 3. And I think I got Volume 1 as well. Which is also why I never got the complete series box sets initially. Like, I do remember, the first, complete series box set I got was the complete series 1 to 4 box set. And that was when it had a massive price reduction to, £65. And that was a bargain back then when I got that. Because that must be, I think that was about 2010, 2011 time, maybe. Because the Doctor Who DVD box sets and that, when they were coming out, were around the £40-50 price. They might have even been closer to 60. Which, when you put that into inflation and that is, it might sound, oh, that's nothing compared to the, well, you gotta remember inflation and everything. DVDs were inherently more expensive then because, it was a newer format. It wasn't, it was still fairly new, but the price in that were more reasonable than that. It was when the price had just come down on that a bit. And since I had the individual volumes and that, basically, when you're a kid, it's just like, okay, it's a choice between either you get a complete series box set, which has episodes you already have on DVD, or, you go for other releases and that, for ones that you don't have, which, as a kid, that's what you go for. And there'll be a theme like that throughout this. So, yeah, that's basically just how it went. But when it came to classic series releases, and I've got, a few here, and the first classic series DVD release I ever got wasn't technically the classic series. It was the two Peter Cushing films, and it was in that DVD case with the Dalek, the sort of shiny silver chrome-like Dalek slipcover on there, and that came out in 2006. It was a 2006 release, and it was one of the early releases because it came with the art cards and the poster, both of which I no longer have, unfortunately. I had the poster on my wall for years, and unfortunately, over the time, where the creases were in the poster, it basically started to wear away and that, and eventually it did start to just fall apart, unfortunately, and I think that got chucked away. I don't know what happened to the art cards. They probably just, went missing in that as well. But, yeah, I remember first seeing it in WX Smith, and seeing it, and my dad, said, "Oh, we'll see," and that, and I remember when we went, not too long afterwards, we went on holiday to Blackpool, which is, people who watch the channel know, is something I do to this day. I have, short trips and that to Blackpool, and when I was there, we went to the WX Smith there, and I spotted it again in there, and I don't know if it had a slight price reduction or something, but basically looked at it and that, and my dad basically, got his X, and I watched both Dalek films in the hotel room at our Travelogues that night. So basically, I think he mainly got his X so I could have something, to watch in the hotel room and that, because the Travelogues we were at the time was not, it was in Blackpool, but it wasn't in the centre, so we had to, drive in and out of the centre and that each day, which basically meant, I had to leave, the centre a little bit early, so there'd be a bit more time in the hotel room and that, so we'd, gather, supplies and that for the hotel room. But yeah, I watched both of them on a 10-inch portable DVD player in a hotel room, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. This was absolutely amazing. I don't know if I watched both films on the same night or not. I can't remember if I did or didn't. I've got a feeling I might have only watched the first film on the first night and then had to go to bed and that. I don't know. I can't quite remember. I do remember though rewatching the first film again, Doctor Who and the Daleks, on my portable DVD player on the car journey home. And hey, who remembers the shit battery life of portable DVD players? Because I remember the battery low sign started flashing when it got to the bit where the escape happens and they're going up the lift. Basically, that's when the portable DVD player died, and they'd only last an hour and a half. If you got 2 hours out of it, that was good. If you managed to get 2 hours out of the portable DVD player, that was good. But that would generally, the only way to do that was to turn the brightness down and that a lot and everything. And the problem was, when you're in a car and there's bright sun and that, you have to really crank the brightness all the way up. But yeah, that was how I first, watched the two Dalek films. And then not too long after that, the first classic series DVD I actually got was Revelation of the Daleks. That was the first one I got, and I got that from HMV at the Metro Centre in Gateshead, and that would have been 2006. I can't remember how much that one was, but basically, this is how I was judging basically, all I had to go off was judging the covers and that, because, I mean, I was 7 years old at the time. I could barely read anything, and that. I mean, I was dyslexic. And that. So basically, I was just kind of initially looking at the covers, and who remembers Remembrance of the Daleks' original DVD release? That one just put me off because it was basically looked like, it was basically a destroyed, a semi-destroyed, or at least looking Imperial Dalek where the gun is like blood. I looked at that cover and thought that looked shit. I chose Revelation and that of the Daleks because also it was cheaper than some of the other releases. There weren't that many. There weren't that many at the time. That was, I think, one of the cheaper ones as well. I think it was something like 12 or 13.99, something along that lines. Obviously, compared to what you can get today. And I remember being shocked actually when watching it. Not shocked, surprised. That, it had, in fact, I've got one to hand. It was these Daleks. I was surprised because the cover of the DVD did not show these Daleks. No, it spoilt the surprise and had the Skaro Daleks on the front and all the publicity photos and that on the back across, the top of the top of the DVD case, like they do here, were all of the Skaro Daleks and none of the Necros ones. So yeah, I was actually surprised by that, and but yeah, that was my first Doctor Who, proper classic series DVD release, and then my next one came not too long after that, and that was at my local WH Smith, which was it's a fairly small one. It's not tiny, but it is fairly small. But they had a fairly decent sized DVD section at the back, which I think now it's either completely gone or they have a row of 12 DVDs and that the charts of something, like the 12 latest releases or whatever. But anyway, they had a sale in there, 2 for £25 on the classic Doctor Who DVDs. That was a good price. That was a fairly decent deal back then, considering the prices of most of the releases were £15 and that, between 13 and in some cases, which we'll get to in a minute, all the way up to £20. So 2 for £25 was pretty decent. And so the two I chose were the 5 Doctors special edition, the original DVD release and the first ever Doctor Who DVD ever, and the Dalek Invasion of Earth. And my dad said, "Are you sure you want this one? It's in black and white." And I said, "Yeah, I want it." So got that, and I remember I was disappointed when watching that one because it didn't take me long to realise, it's the exact same plot as the Peter Cushing film. I was like, oh. Right, so I remember as a kid being disappointed in that. Obviously now I do really like it and that. But I remember as a kid I was disappointed and put off that release for a while. But if we pause on those for a moment, and actually, you know what, I'll talk about the next one I got. I do remember the next one I got after that. The next one I got after that was from Forbidden Planet. And this was only my second or third time I'd ever been in Forbidden Planet. And I remember my late granny and granddad, they got me this. Why they decided to spend that that much money on me for no reason. No reason, and that, but they did. They got me Genesis of the Daleks, which, again, I think had recently come out on DVD. And it was £20. £20. You compare it to today, Genesis of the Daleks is one of the cheapest Doctor Who DVDs you can find. I think at HMV it's being £5.99 for the longest time. And in terms of finding it used, you can find it used for £1-2. pretty easily. You know, it's one of the most common, you know, Doctor Who DVDs and that out there. Rightfully so, it's a really good DVD, and it had probably one of the best special features on there, the Dalek tapes. And I remember I watched that documentary constantly because, for one, you know, it was an interesting documentary, but also it showed clips from Dalek stories, so I would know what ones and that to look for. Like, when I saw the clips, it was like, oh, there's a clip from this story, just like, oh, I've got to go get that one, you know. That to a kid, you know, is exciting because the thing is, I didn't have a computer or anything at the time, so basically, unlike today where I could just go and look things up or look up clips, like, I was just going completely in blind. There was no one, you know, around me who knew anything about them, about any Doctor Who story, really. Like my parents and that, no one in my family knew, and that's because they didn't really remember any of it because they weren't Doctor Who fans. They didn't really watch it growing up. They just saw, like, again, as I said, the odd episode here and there. And in terms of, you know, at school and that, no one was interested in classic Doctor Who. Heck, most people didn't even know it existed. And that, so yeah, there was no one else really excited, so I just had to kind of go in blind. And I did work out a strategy as a kid, and that, and I don't know, it's a bit of a weird strategy, and that for a kid to think of, I think, maybe, because I know a lot of kids would probably, you know, what I did initially, and look at the covers and that, and go, which one was the best, but I do remember, with the Invasion, well, it wasn't it, I remember I intended to get Tomb of the Cybermen. I remember, this was, again, 2006, a bit later, and we were in Sunderland at the time, so we were in Rob Ritchie land, as I like to call it now, and we were in the HMV there, and you know, I wanted to get a Cyberman story, and there wasn't many available at the time. There was Tomb of the Cybermen, there was Earthshock, and, little Xano, recently released The Invasion. And that was your lot. Those were the 3 DVD releases available at the time. And one of which I didn't know existed. And that, until I was looking in HMV, I saw Tomb of the Cybermen, and it was £10. And that, because they were doing some sort of sale, £10. I was thinking, oh, that's like, because my dad said, you know, you can. I told my dad, you know, how much I'd seen it before at a different HMV, how much it was. And he said, okay, you can have that, you know, if you spot it when we're out. And because I didn't really get pocket money, I never got pocket money growing up. And that generally, you know, my parents or grandparents and that would occasionally, you know, buy me something. And that it wasn't a case of that they gave me pocket money or anything like that. 'Cause, you know, they just occasionally, you know, would get me something. It was usually a DVD or maybe a Doctor Who figure or something. And that, but anyway. So, found Tomb of the Cybermen there, and then I noticed The Invasion. And they had 2 copies of The Invasion. One had the correct retail price, which was £20. Yeah, £20 for The Invasion when it first came out. And then another copy had the wrong price on it. It had the wrong price on it, and it was £10. And this is how I decided between them. I looked at the runtime and the number of discs. I noticed The Invasion was 2 discs and was double the runtime, essentially. So I said to my dad, can I get this? And he said, well, you can get what? Can I get this? And The Invasion. And he said to me, you can get one or the other, as long as it's the same price. And I went, okay. So I got I decided to get The Invasion. Thanks to that HMV staff member who put the wrong price on it. And that's because obviously they did have to give you at that price, because it had the price and that on there. So yeah, got it for £10. And yeah, do not regret that at all. Do not But basically that meant from then on as a kid, basically, you know, I wouldn't buy Doctor Who DVDs based on the covers, generally. I would always teach them more towards, like, you know, Dalek stories or Simon stories and that. But I would look at the runtime or how many discs it included. Like, for example, the only reason I got City of Death at one point, this was years later, this was like two years later or something like that. The only reason I got that over another Doctor Who DVD is because it was 2 discs. Same with Survival, that was 2 discs. That because I wanted basically the best value for money. I wanted the most amount of content for the money because I knew, this would be my Doctor Who DVD and that for the next however long and that. So, I wanted the most amount of content on this because I was, again, a weird kid who really liked watching the special features. Sometimes more than the actual story itself, in some cases. But anyway, talked about that bit enough. Let's go back to another problem growing up, as I mentioned earlier. Doctor Who DVD release, like in the shops, and that around this time. Basically, VHS was almost completely gone. There were still blank VHSs available basically everywhere, but in terms of new VHS releases, no, not really. They basically pretty much stopped by then. And the problem was, not that many Doctor Who stories at the time had been released on DVD, at least classic series ones. The problem was, the VHSs, were long out of print as well. But in 2007, we got our first laptop. It wasn't mine. It was like it was a laptop like for the whole family. And that, and this was actually, I remember this was the first thing, not just myself, but my family ever bought off Amazon. It wasn't this one. This was actually a one I got late last year, when basically there was rumours about this going out of print because of An Unearthly Child. That isn't the case, thankfully, but that's why I bought an extra copy, just in case my original one, ever stopped working. And that, but regardless, this was the first one I ever got off Amazon, because I remember on Amazon it was like £15 or £20 on a sale, and like in the shops it was about 20, 25, £30. And my mum was like, are you sure? Are you sure this is safe? But it arrived and that, and it was, I remember, again, really watching this thing. I did enjoy the like this time I knew what I was in for and that with it, 'cause I knew it would be, the same sort of story and that, but obviously different to Doctor Who and the Daleks. But anyway, when looking on there, I noticed there was Doctor Who on VHS on Amazon. And these were stories I'd never seen, I'd never watched. The problem was, they were bloody expensive. They were really expensive. More expensive than the DVD releases. I'll give you an example. I remember I got The Chase on VHS, not in the tin, just the VHS on its own in its like slip card type box. And I think that was £20 or £25 back then. I got that off Amazon. That was like the cheapest one on there. Yeah. That's why, and again, that was for a used copy as well, on its own and that. That's how much that was. Now, there's some people who literally will give them away, in some cases. Funny enough, though, the Chase and the Space Museum, I did end up getting on DVD when they first came out, and that was my Easter present. Instead of having like chocolate eggs and that, that's what I got. And I do remember really being annoyed that my DVD box for the Space Museum, the plastic that held the disc in place, was basically cracked and didn't hold the disc in properly, and eventually it did just snap off. And that, obviously, I should have really just taken it back at the time, but I thought I was just so desperate and that to watch them. But yeah, so I did occasionally get Doctor Who, VHSs through Amazon, but I say occasionally, very occasionally, because they were more expensive than the DVDs. Because again, people wanting to watch, there was a lot of fans my age who still like, obviously, still like VCRs and that. But and that was basically the only way to watch classic Doctor Who stories that hadn't yet being released on DVD. However, then what I also discovered, YouTube. And I remember I was just looking at, I think I was watching, some random Doctor Who stuff, and in my recommended section, and I do remember this, there was basically an episode of Doctor Who which I hadn't seen. I can't remember whether it was episode 6 of Frontier in Space, or whether it was Attack of the Cybermen. It was one of the two. And because what a lot of people had done, which was very nice of them, had digitised their Doctor Who VHS collection and just uploaded it to YouTube. And this was back in the day, like, YouTube during, the mid to late 2000s. That was basically everything on the website. Most things on the website was basically just, copyright and pirated material. And was a great way to watch them. However, I did still want the physical, either VHS or the DVDs. The DVDs that had been released hadn't been uploaded to there. But most, if not all, the VHSs had, not all of them. The Chase was one of them. That wasn't up there. At least I could never find it. Which is why I got the VHS of that. But, yeah. The quality and audio quality weren't as good, I think, because the capture equipment, this was early capture equipment, so, the capture quality in that of these digitized, VHSs and that weren't great quality, and they were generally in 240p or if you were lucky 360p, and which obviously VHS is about that, but still really bad quality, but still it was either that or nothing. Like, that was a way myself, and I imagine a lot of other people first watched them. I remember watching Planet of the Daleks a lot, and also Attack of the Cybermen a lot, watching these, digitized VHSs. But I did eventually get Planet of the Daleks. I got it in that tin with Revelation of the Daleks, which, interestingly, the VHS of Revelation of the Daleks added back in the deleted scenes, which I thought they would have done for the Blu-ray release, have an extended version with those deleted scenes added in, but no, it wasn't the case. But yeah, I don't know where my VHS for Revelation of the Daleks is. I've got the box for it, it's still in the tin, with my copy of Planet of the Daleks. But I don't know where the actual VHS for it is itself. Speaking of which, something I did do in the early, late 2000s, early 2010s really, is some of my Doctor Who DVDs, what I did, because I used to go to my grandparents a lot, and that, basically what I would do is, rather than take the DVDs and that around there with us, some of my Doctor... I didn't do this with many, I did it with only a couple of them. But some of my Doctor Who DVDs I actually recorded onto VHS. So I could watch them while I was there and just keep the tape of them there. Though I think I only did this with a couple of them because, again, you had to do it in real time. And I only had the one TV and that to do them with, so... I only ever did a couple, I think. I only think I did one or maybe two tapes. And I think those both eventually, got recorded over. But that was something I did. But in 2009, I started recording Doctor Who onto DVD. Because in 2007, I think it was, or possibly 2008, I got my first recordable DVD player. But I didn't learn how to use it until 2009. Which is why I didn't use it until 2009. Because basically, I couldn't figure out how to use it. Neither could my parents. Because the instructions didn't really explain it very well. So yeah, basically my dad couldn't figure out how to use it either. And that. But in 2009, by pure chance, by just pressing some buttons around and that, I figured out how to use it. I figured out how to use the recordable DVD player. So the first Doctor Who I ever recorded to DVD was The Waters of Mars. And that, again, like with the VHS, I recorded in super long play. And the reason I did is because basically a standard blank DVD, which is 4.7 gigabytes, in high quality mode, which would basically be, is the highest quality mode possible, you could get an hour out of it. In standard quality, you could get, which again was pretty much indistinguishable from the broadcasting, what they all advertised it as, you could get 2 hours out of. Or, in super long play mode, you could get 6 hours out of it, which is what I did. I set it to super long playing to get 6 hours, which obviously reduced the quality. But the thing is, it wasn't that noticeable. You could tell a difference, but again, recordable DVDs back then as well. I remember I got a pack of 4 or 5, and they were like 15 pounds when my dad got them, which is why it was a long time before I ever got any more. But yeah, that was the first one I ever recorded. I also recorded It's Confidential. And for a long time as well, The End of Time, I also recorded onto DVD as well, along with the Confidentials, which is why I never bothered buying the Complete Specials box set initially for the longest time, because I had recordings of them. And they were pretty, they were good enough quality. I think with The End of Time, I think I set that one actually to not super long play. I think I sent that to just regular long play, which was 4 hours. So it was enough to have both of them on there, I think, and the Confidentials, or something along those lines. I don't know. I might have set it to super long play, I can't remember. However, the problem with these DVD recordings, and whoever, was one of the few people who recorded onto DVD like me will know, the problem with recording onto DVD is they don't last. Eventually they do all just die. Like, basically, I went through all of my blank DVDs not too long ago, a couple of months, 2 or 3 months ago, and none of them work. None of them work. Either basically the drive doesn't recognise it, or it just thinks it's a blank disc in there. None of them unfortunately work, which is a shame, because any recordings I have of that were done on VHS that I still own, they still play perfectly fine. Yeah. Which is a shame. Like, I still have, I think it's somewhere in the loft now, but I still have my original recordings for the Stolen Earth and Journey's End. I still have that original VHS. I also have a recording somewhere and that of, I remember I missed the Confidentials and that for Series 1, and I remember they repeated them on BBC 3, I remember recording them. I also remember there was the odd episode that was, repeated on Dave, I think it was. And I remember, I think it was in 2010 or 2011. Probably 2011, I think it was. I got a Skybox, because my family and that the living room one was upgraded to Sky Plus, and I got the old Skybox. And that because it worked out at about the same price, so not much more. So I just got the Skybox. And the way I recorded off it was basically I hooked it up to my record. I initially hooked it up to my VCR, a different VCR, and recorded off it that way to VHS, but later to DVD. And I recorded loads of stuff, particularly I remember I recorded loads of The Simpsons and that off there. That way, none of them, again, the discs work, unfortunately. But yeah, I do remember once actually asking for a blank VHS tape off my dad because I didn't have any left, and I wanted to record something. I don't know if it was Doctor Who or something else, and he had a look. He said, "Oh, here, this one." And I'm glad I read I'm glad I had a look at the label and decided to play the VHS just to see what was on it beforehand, because it turns out he had handed me my parents' wedding video. Yeah, he had handed me my parents' wedding video. Which, thank God I had a look at the label and decided to watch a bit of it first to to confirm what it was, because my mum was not happy and that. So yeah, it was this close. It was literally this close to being recorded over. I still have that VHS to this day. Actually, it's in my room. And one day, I've said I will digitize it one day. When I remember to, because it's in an awkward place at the minute. There's a load of Daleks and Doctor Who sets in front of it, which I'd have to basically move them all out of the way to get to. But yeah, but speaking of which, since recordable DVDs and that was so expensive, I remember when it came to Series 6 of Doctor Who, when it came to the finale and of Series 6, and it was also going to have the final ever confidential on there, and I wanted to record them, particularly the confidential, because I knew when it did get physically released on DVD and Blu-ray and that, it would only be a cut down version, so I wanted to record the full thing. Unfortunately, I didn't have any blank DVDs left, and didn't have any money to get any, and that, so in 2011, I think this was one of the last things I ever recorded onto VHS, but I did record, in 2011, the Doctor Who Series 6 finale and its confidential onto VHS. And I'm pretty sure I've still got it somewhere. So, yeah. But speaking of which, it was also handy though, because obviously compared to today, if you record something, digitally now, which people don't do very often now, but like if you do something like Sky Plus or whatever, set-top box alternative, you basically, you can't get it off that device. And annoyingly with Sky Plus, even if it's a non-Sky channel like BBC One, if you stop paying for the Sky Plus subscription, you will not be able to view that content that you recorded. Yeah. Which I found out when I wanted to rewatch Series 12 of New Tricks. Which was annoying, so yeah. But I do remember one year, 2007, basically Human Nature had been on, but I knew I was going to be on holiday for the next 2 weeks, so I'd miss Family of Blood and also Blink. Yeah. And I remember, but, my grandparents said, "Oh, we'll record it for you." Which they did, so they recorded it for me so I could watch it afterwards. 'Cause I remember Doctor Who, this happened a couple of times, actually. I think it happened during Series 2, actually. Series 2, there was a couple of episodes here and there, like, I remember if you missed Doctor Who on its broadcast on Saturday, it was repeated the following night on BBC Three on Sunday. So if you missed it on its Saturday broadcast, it was repeated on Sunday on BBC Three. So that was useful. But anyway, so they recorded those for us, and I remember watching them in my room in the dark, pretty much, and being terrified of Blink. And that, Blink gave me nightmares that night. But yeah, just watching them on a VHS and that they recorded for me. And that Family of Blood and Blink and that back to back. But obviously that would be something they would be unable to do today. So, yeah. But it was stuff like that, you know. Because again, a lot of the time you had to, you know, kind of compromise and that with things, you know. Did I want to have the complete series box sets, which you know, that would have to be like a birthday or Christmas present, or would I rather have, you know, the odd, you know, classic series DVD release? Well, obviously a no-brainer, and that when it came to stuff like that, though, my VHS collection wasn't very large because it was so expensive, as I said. But some of them I don't have anymore. And the reason is basically I remember when Attack of the Cybermen was coming out, and the only reason I knew about these releases is because I think it might have started with Destiny of the Daleks or the one before. I do remember Destiny of the Daleks, seeing that in HMV. It was $16.99. It was $16.99. And I couldn't believe, like, I had to really persuade my dad to get it, because, again, 2008, $16.99, but yeah. But I remember it was one of the DVD releases I got, and it had a coming soon trailer, and it was Attack of the Cybermen. And I decided, you know, I was debating whether to get it, because I had it on VHS. But in the end, what I decided to do is to subsidise the cost for it, because I think it was going to be, I think it was £15 or something along those lines. It was released in 2009, I know that. But I sold my VHS of it, I think for about a tenner or something like that. Through my mum's eBay account anyway. And I think it was like £8 or something I got back. And that was basically put towards buying Attack of the Cybermen on VHS, on DVD. Well, I got the DVD first and then basically sold the VHS afterwards. I remember, to kind of make it up to the money. And I think there was only one or two other VHS releases I actually sold. Yeah, I think so, they mate. Though I do remember in the early 2010s, I still go to it occasionally to this day, but there was a flea market in Tynemouth, which is still there to this day. It was on every Saturday and Sunday, and I remember on Sundays when I go to my other grandparents' house, me and my granddad and that would sometimes walk down to that flea market, and there was this guy there who no longer is there. Well, he might be there, but he's not selling what he used to sell. But he would sell DVDs, but also a load of VHSs. And he sold Doctor Who VHSs for £5 each. And at the time, you know, this was cheaper than getting the DVDs. And also, a lot of the ones that were on YouTube had gotten taken off. So I ended up getting a lot of the VHS releases, including stuff like Planet. I remember I got Planet of Spiders from there. I got The Seeds of Doom VHS from there. I can't remember whether it was the UK or Australian version. And that I remember I got the Ice Warriors VHS and that from there. I've still got that one. But yeah, just because, you know, they were pretty cheap. They were cheap. You know, the DVDs like had come down a lot in price, but most of them were still like a tenner each, and these were like half the price because they're on VHS and that. Obviously, all used, quick skill. And sometimes you could get him into going to say, you know, like barter him down a little bit. Like if you bought, like there was a couple of occasions where I bought a couple, and I was able to bring the price down a little bit. But yeah, but again, you know, that was it for a while. And I want to talk about this DVD release. So this is Inferno Special Edition. I do have the original DVD release as well, but this one, I remember I got this one in 2017. I remember I got it in 2017, because in 2017 I decided to go back and get all of the special edition Doctor Who DVDs, because I had avoided them all the way up until that point. And the reason I had is because, again, I didn't have very much, it was, again, a choice of, oh, do I get a special edition version with, more special features than that, or do I get something I don't have? Which, obviously, back then was the case. But, obviously, since the Doctor Who DVD line, Classic Series DVD line, had seemingly come to an end, I decided, okay, I'm going to go back and get all of the special editions, and also they come down significantly in price. I remember I pre-ordered, I didn't pre-order this actually, I got this alongside Series 4 of Sherlock, and I think I remember the only reason I bought this alongside that at the time was because in order to get free delivery on it through Amazon, I think it was. So yeah, that's the reason I have that. And I was planning on, I did get a few other ones. I remember I got the Green Death Special Edition. And I was planning to, go back and eventually get them all. But then, obviously, in February 2018, I think it was, the Blu-ray collection sets were announced. And they were also announced to have all of the previous special features included from the DVD releases. So that basically almost instantly put a stop to me basically buying, basically buying any of the special edition DVDs. For example, I never got the special edition, the 25th anniversary version of The Five Doctors. Never got that. Never. I remember the Arcing Space. I remember when I got the Arcing Space on DVD, because I remember the special edition had just come out. And I didn't have very much money at the time. And didn't want to spend that much on it. But I did remember My Forbidden Planet had a copy of the original DVD release for $6.99, which was basically about half the price of its special edition. So I picked that up at Forbidden Planet and that. And obviously now I've got the Blu-ray, which has the special features from the special edition. So yeah. So that basically automatically, stopped me from basically picking up the special editions. So I have very few special editions of the Doctor Who Classic Series DVDs. Now this one I want to show here for a different reason. So this is, as you can see, Scream of the Shulker. I didn't get this DVD for the longest time. Because it was available online, and I think it's available on the... I don't know if... Is it available on iPlayer at the minute? I can't remember, but it was available online for the longest time. And it didn't really have anything that exclusive to it, I don't believe. But I picked this up in 2021, I'm gonna say. It was either 2021 or early 2022. I don't know. Watch one of my Doctor Who items to unbox, because I did unbox it on there. But this, to date, is the last Doctor Who DVD release that I've bought. This is the last Doctor Who DVD I've bought to date. And that's only because, it's not available on Blu-ray or anything like that. Because even as a kid, I wanted things in the best quality possible, but obviously, as a kid, you kind of have to settle. I would ideally have liked, to being able to have got them all on DVD and that at the time, but obviously that, wasn't possible in some cases because they hadn't been released yet, or in other cases, it was because they were too expensive, and that. But yeah, this is the last one I got to date, and that mainly just because, I did not have it. Essentially, so yeah. I do remember my brother got some of the special edition releases. He got Remembrance of the Daleks special edition, which I did rip, and thank God I did, because he broke the disc for it. Like, it cracked. I think the same thing happened on his Tomb of the Cybermen special edition, which was in one of the Revisitation box sets. I can't remember which, but it had that, and I think Tongues of Wen Chiang and something else, maybe the TV movie, I can't remember. But I do remember that and Tomb of Cybermen. My brother, to this day, does not bother putting discs back in boxes when he uses them. Very rarely does he ever now. But yeah, they just got broken. Like, when I say broken, I mean literally snapped. So I'm glad that that, and along with Tomb of the Cybermen, Remembrance of the Dark Specialist, and along with Tomb of the Cybermen, I'm glad I did raw rips of those discs, like literally just the raw files and that off the discs. Obviously, I could, if I wanted to, I could rebuy them now, and obviously, Remembrance of the Daleks is about to be re-released and that on Blu-ray, which will be the definitive version. So, for me, I don't have unlike some collectors, I don't have the incentive to go back and finish the DVD collection. And even less of an incentive to go back and finish the VHS collection. Like, the only reason I would want to is for the artwork on the VHSs, really. That would be the most appealing thing. But one, I don't have the space. And that, and two, money is very tight now with things. So, yeah, just like, if I had unlimited space, unlimited money, sure, maybe. But today, nah, sorry, can't do that. Unfortunately, cannot do that. Yeah, I remember Series 4. Most of Series 4 of Doctor Who I didn't bother recording initially when they came out. Actually, I do remember. That was because I could rewatch them on iPlayer, and then by the time they did go off iPlayer, and that, because they'll only be on there for was it 3 or 6 months they were on there for at the time. In fact, some stuff on iPlayer, this isn't the case nowadays, but I do remember when stuff went on iPlayer initially, when iPlayer was new. Stuff would only be on there for a week. Generally, most things would only be on there for like a week, and then they'd go off iPlayer. Which obviously now they're on there for months at least. Most of the time. But yeah. Now, I remember I got Series 4 Volume 2 of Series 4. Even though I think I did have bits of it. I must have had it recorded initially, actually. I think I did, but I re-recorded it over when I got the DVD of that. I never got the Series 4 volume. I never got any other volumes of Series 4, at least initially. And the reason is because either I'd recorded them and that, or eventually, not too long later, I did get the DVD box set of them. But yeah, they were just expensive like growing up. I can't remember if there's anything else I haven't mentioned in that. Obviously, this video has gone on for a long, long time, and that. So yeah, but I don't know. Is there anything else to really mention? And that, obviously, from my brother's case, and that, he doesn't really watch Doctor Who very often now, and if he does, he'll watch it through iPlayer. My sister watches probably more Doctor Who now than he does. She watches it fairly often, actually. Mainly new series, but she has been dipping into the classic series. I remember literally 2 days ago, her and my brother were sat in the living room watching Remembrance of the Daleks on BBC iPlayer. So, yeah. But obviously, with my brother, it would have been a different case for him, because with him, obviously, it would be whatever it would be, he would watch whatever Doctor Who stories I would get, essentially. Because for a few years, we did share this room. I had it initially, obviously, being older, but I do remember when my brother was like, older, and that basically he shared this room with me for dunno. Yeah, sorry about that. My camera actually overheated because it's been recording on that for that long. Mainly because of the battery. But I swapped the battery. Anyway, what I was saying is things would have been different from my brother's point of view, actually. Because he shared this room with me for a few years until he eventually got his own room and I kicked him out. But yeah, he would just have, obviously with him, he didn't have to worry about, asking my parents or grandparents and that about getting the Doctor Who DVDs, because I got them. It was only when he got his own room and he would occasionally borrow them off me if I allowed it, but he had to give them back immediately after he'd watched them, and had to go straight back in the box and everything. I think that's probably the reason why, actually, he ended up getting some of the special editions, so he could have, like, his own copies and that, and he wouldn't have to ask me and that for them. And obviously, today, you know, I buy the Doctor Who Blu-rays, I buy the box sets, but I do rip them all. Every single Doctor Who DVD or Blu-ray, you know, I do rip them. All the Blu-rays I rip to MP4s, and that's initially to MKVs, but then I convert them to MP4s. Otherwise, the file sizes are bloody massive. Like, for example, the Blu-ray sets, each Blu-ray disc is like a 50GB Blu-ray disc. So that very, very quickly adds up, especially, you know, when you've got 8 or 9 discs. And that's in a set. But these days, when I want to watch Doctor Who, I'm not watching them on DVD. I'm not, you know, obviously I'm watching the Blu-ray copies, but I'm not even watching the physical discs anymore. I'm watching an MP4 rip of the Blu-rays, and generally what I do is when there's a story or something I want to watch, or even just a special feature, I copy them and that to a USB. That I then actually, you know what? I can show this. Actually, I can show this. That USB hub there, it's got a USB in it. So that is connected to a USB hub that is connected up to my TV. The only reason I've got a USB hub like that is basically because it's really awkward trying to get to the USB port on the back of the TV, and that. So yeah, that's generally how I watch it, and that. To this day, in some cases, I do watch the iPlayer version. Like, for example, last night, I think it was, I watched Tomb of the Cybermen, and I just watched it on iPlayer. I later watched the special features and that off the rip I've got, but, you know, it was just there and convenient. Obviously, when it comes to the Blu-ray stuff, I generally watch the rips and that of them, because obviously they're the latest transfers, and that in better quality. With the ones on BBC iPlayer, not all of them are the newest transfers and that. Although, when it comes to stuff like the Time Meddler, not the Time Meddler, the Mind Robber, that's it. That's it. If you watch the version of the Mind Robber that is from Tales of the TARDIS, that is actually a new HD restoration of it. Even though most of it was done to videotape. Apart from episode 5, though I don't know if the film prints for that exist. So, yeah, that is basically a lot of it anyway. Though, I have just remembered one more thing, actually. I know this video's gone on long enough. I have remembered another thing. Growing up, I had various Wowee robots. And if you don't know what those are, basically they're the Wowee are the company who make Roboraptor. I got him when he first came out in 2006. I'm gonna say maybe 2005 actually. Whenever he initially came out, I got him that Christmas. I've still got him to this day, and he still works. So yeah. Oscar Evans, you're not the first one to ever discover him. And that, I had him growing up. I grew up with him, the original. But anyway, I remember I think it must have been 2006. I asked for Christmas for the Wowee RS Media Robot 2. The RS Robot 2, which I got for Christmas, and it didn't work. It didn't work, it just wouldn't turn on or anything, so we took it back to Phoenix, and unfortunately they didn't have any more in stock, so they gave us their money back. So basically we tried looking around various other places to try and find another one. Nowhere had any in stock. And I remember, this will get relevant to Doctor Who, I promise, eventually, but I do remember we were in Marks and Spencer's in Newcastle, And they had a bunch of this other type of WowWee robot, which was similar to the one I wanted, except it was better. It was the RS Media WowWee robot, which had, as well as all the functionality of the regular version, the version 2, it had a screen in its chest, a camera built into its head with a microphone, and it also had speakers built into its hands and a mini subwoofer built into its back. And I remember it was meant to be, I think it was meant to be £350 or some ridiculous amount. But it was on sale, because they hadn't really sold any, for £105. Which was more expensive than the robot, I initially asked for. But since it was, I used basically the rest of my... I think my parents, since they weren't able to get me, the one I wanted and they couldn't find anywhere else, I think they paid the difference, which was like another 20 quid or something to get it for us. And I've still got that robot to this day, and one day I want to find out if this is still on there, but I decided, for fun, to make an audio recording, an old school audio recording, like it was a missing episode. I decided to record the audio. I scud the robot had it had a video recorder function, and you could take pictures with it. You could also record audio. The videos you could only take very short video clips. It might have even been as short as 10 seconds. I can't remember. But the audio clips, you could take 10-minute audio clips. And I recorded part 4 of Destiny of the Daleks for some reason, in terrible quality on this robot. And I actually did listen to it a couple of times off the robot. Why? No idea. I could have literally put in the DVD and just watched it, but yeah, just for fun, it's like, oh, it's an old, it's a missing episode in the recording, blah blah blah, just a bit of fun like that. Again, no real point to it, even less point then, because I had the DVD right there. But still, yeah. But one day I do want to try and see if I can get the pictures or videos off that robot. The problem with it is, with that robot, is it, even then, he was expensive to run, because he took 8, I think it was either 6 or 8 D-cell batteries, plus 4 AA batteries in the robot itself, plus another 3 or 4 AA batteries in the remote itself, and they didn't last very long. So yeah, but one day I will, try and get the stuff off him. I don't know if he'll actually connect to a more modern PC. We will have to find out then, won't we? But yeah. But particularly I want to do it as well, because there might be some pictures of my granny and that on there, on my late granny on there, and I do want to try and find some if they are on there. And that I don't know. I honestly don't know. Because he had very limited storage, so he did have this. He did have this slot on the side of him, and it had this mysterious writing on the side of it, and I didn't know what it was for, and it just said SD. Obviously, now I realise that was an SD card slot, so I could probably have expanded the storage. Maybe that might be a good way to get the stuff off it. Well, don't know, but that's a story for another day. Though something I might try and do right now is, let's see if I can ask my brother of his experience. And see if he has anything to say.
Hello, Bob. Hello, Bobby.
Nathan, I'm doing a video where I talk about my experiences, watching Doctor Who growing up and buying the DVDs and that. And I was wondering if I could get your point of view, because obviously you, would watch them with us growing up and that. And I was just wondering if you could say anything about it.
No, I don't want to be in it.
No, you don't want to be in it. Okay, that solves that mystery.